I took off the second morning mad. I was mad because those fish didn't bite. I was mad because it wasn't working. And I went out that second morning with a purpose and a drive like no other.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. As many of you are aware, I do a Monday night live every week in addition to these weekly podcast episodes. And we had a really special one recently that I wanted to share with you all on the podcast. In case you're not able to catch the Monday Night Lives, which those go out on my Facebook feed as well as in the Woman Angler and Adventurer group and the YouTube channel as well. And we also have a Women's World of Fishing Monday Night Live Takeover YouTube channel dedicated to the show as well. So you can catch it on any of those platforms, as well as Barbara Harris's page and her YouTube channel as well. So lots of different options to catch that show. But if you happen to miss one we had recently where we featured Pam Martin Wells, who, for those of you who aren't aware of who Pam is, you should be, because she is the most winningest female angler out there. And we had such a great conversation with her. Like I said, I wanted to share it this week. So I hope you all enjoy. Listen to this whole thing. There's so much great information, especially if you're interested in bass fishing and competitive fishing. We talk about the Cane River Tournament, which has kind of been a theme on the show for the past few episodes. But so much to be learned from Pam in this conversation. So I hope you enjoy. And even if you did catch the Monday Night Live, this is worth re-listening to and taking some notes. So check it out.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another night of Women's World of Fishing Monday Night Takeover. And we are going to give it a little bit like we always do, let all the feeds get out to everybody, because we have got a good one for you tonight. So we don't want anybody to miss this one. So we're just going to go over a few things. This is to bounce off of the episode that we had just last week. Angie was in Louisiana for Cane River. I was in Kentucky last week. Angie, it was super hot, was it not?
Yeah,
that's all I heard.
That was the common theme of the week. Is it was just super hot. A couple days were really humid, so it made practice and the tournament just all that more challenging. Very shallow river, and so the water temps were up, and so you really had to find those cooler areas where the bass were going to be hanging out. And I had a little bit of a challenge with this Key West Bay Reef. With the T-top, I couldn't get under the last bridge, so that kind of limited me a little bit. But I'm not going to make any excuses because there were plenty of fish to be caught where I could access. So just is what it is. I learned a lot. It was definitely a challenge, but it was fun. We brought the full rig down this time, which was a 13-hour drive for us. But we had the Lance Truck Camper Mobile Podcast Studio and the boat. And everything went way better than I imagined. So
good.
So we were really pleased with that. So I can't wait to fish the Classic on Logan Martin in Alabama in the fall and bring the rig back down with me. I think that one's going to be really fun. I'm excited because it's close to me. I mean, relatively, it's like, I think 3 hours away. So
that's nice for anybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, so, you made it to the Classic.
I know. Yeah, that was my big goal this year, being my first year.
Logan Martin, here she comes.
Yeah, can't wait. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Good deal. Well, I tried to watch the weigh-in for the first day. It didn't come up very well, and I watched the whole thing for Friday. And like we said, that Monday, the shootout, well, everything that was being decided for this one tournament was huge. Pam Ridgel and Pam Martin Wells, that
neck and neck.
They were neck and neck for Angler of the Year. And so on Thursday, when they came in and they were that close in weight, I can't even imagine how they felt going out on the water on Friday. So I'm anxious to see how Pam Martin Wells, since we've got her on tonight, how she managed to manage those emotions, because she's managed them her entire career and she's been in these spots before, and we've talked about that.
And since you didn't get to watch that weigh-in or the full weigh-in, I'm not sure if you're aware. Did you know that Pam Ridgel had live well issues that day?
No, so she only lost one fish.
So she had to weigh early on the first day because she was having some live well issues. So that may have affected, she maybe could have got on a bigger one or something and called, I think she have her limit. I think she had her limit.
Yeah.
So that was good, but she got them early, but she was in by like 1:30 because the fish were struggling.
Right.
So
that's a bad time to have a live well issue.
Yeah, and it's so hot. Yeah, so hot out there and stuff. So she wanted to, make sure she didn't get those dead fish penalties, which was probably a smart decision there for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Pam Ridgel, if you're watching, I'm definitely sorry to hear that, because that is definitely something you cannot plan for. Well, I guess we're going to go ahead and bring Pam on, because for those of you that don't know, I've been receiving questions through the email. We've had some come in through social media. So we're going to try to give Pam as many questions as we can throughout the feed and let her tell us whatever she's willing to say. And I tell all tournament anglers that come on here, I do let them know that they're not obligated to answer all the questions because they are tournament anglers, and we have to respect that. And Angie's the one that made me talk about the Flappy Daddy anyway.
Which that did not help me on Cane River one bit, unfortunately.
Well, you just didn't fish it right.
That probably is true. And then, just so everybody knows who's watching, I'm going to be monitoring the comments tonight. So Barbara's going to kind of lead the conversation and the questions that she already has. And then she's going to check in with me periodically. And I'll update you guys, update Pam if there's any new questions that come in while you guys are watching, or comments. And that's kind of how we'll work it tonight. Barbara's monitoring a Twitter feed, I believe, and I actually have good internet tonight, so that's a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll roll from there.
Pam, are you ready? Thumbs up. Okay, everybody. She needs no introduction. Here is Pam Martin Wells. Welcome, Pam. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm good. It's been quite a couple of months. I don't know how many people know, but I am the coach for Emmanuel College fishing team, and between the LBAA and their schedules, we've been on the road for about 2.5 months now. We've been home maybe 5 days in 2 months. So.
Wow.
We came straight to my dad's after the Cane River so I could spend time with him, and that's where I'm at right now. So we've had a little bit of a break, but I got to leave straight from here and go to Lay Lake to meet another one of my teams fishing the BASS wild card. So.
Oh, wow. Really not a break.
Not really.
Wow. Well, you have had quite the pressure on you for this past week, and most of the questions that came in have been about Cane River. Now, you won in Texas,
correct?
But going into Cane, I'm not sure if it's because it was so tough down there or hot, but people really want to know how you managed to win Cane River, what you did, how you did it. Major decisions.
Well, like any tournament, I start prior to doing as much research as I can, which on the Cane River was very, very limited.
Mm-hmm.
And it took about an hour the first day of practice to realize that we all read the same articles. we were all doing the same thing, hitting outside bends, hitting that I don't know how to pronounce it, zizania. It's a wild rice. Most people just call it reeds. Mm-hmm. And so I started out doing that. And like I said, it didn't take me long to realize that we all read the same daggum article. And I was like, this is such a small body of water.
Right.
The fish will not be able to withstand this kind of pressure for 3 days of practice and then 2 days of tournament. So I started trying to look for something a little different. And I started fishing some older seawalls, which I realized a lot of the competitors were fishing the boat docks and that kind of stuff. But I was primarily focusing in between the docks on some of these seawalls. And I caught a couple of fish, and I was watching my Lowrance, and I kept noticing that there was the biggest abundance of shad and fish were in 6 to 8 feet of water. So I started casting ahead of the boat, where I was sitting, and I hit something and I got bit. Well, my first thought was I hit some brush, and then I don't know, I kept going and just running from seawall to seawall, and I can't really describe what I was looking for, but it was a certain type of seawall, and I'm not really being secretive. I just don't know how to explain what I was looking for.
Right.
It was one of those deals, and I don't know, 2 or 3 of those after I got 2 or 3 bites, and I got to noticing this grass floating, and I told my husband, I said, "That's not brush we're hitting." He said, "What do you mean?" Because he always thinks I'm dumb. No. He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "You see that?" He said, "Yeah, that's where somebody mowed the grass." I said, "No, it's not." He said, "What?" I said, "That's eelgrass."
Oh, okay.
No article nowhere has mentioned anything about eelgrass, and I guarantee you nobody's looking for it. So then I took my Lowrance and my side scan, and I would, if I saw an area that looked good, I would scan it. And if I could find a patch of eelgrass in 5 to 8 feet of water, you could catch a fish on it. I mean, that's probably one of those things I shouldn't have said, because I mean, I don't know how many people realize there was eelgrass in there, because I'm telling you, every article I researched, nobody said anything about the eelgrass. It was lily pads, that zizania, water hyacinths, that kind of thing. But that was my key. I could go down a stretch of seawalls, docks, behind somebody and catch fish, just because I was targeting something specific.
Mm-hmm. Right. And something different.
Right. And, I'm sure I just stumbled upon it, but I could take a 10-inch worm, which was another thing that, of course, that turned out to be, quite a few people were throwing a 10-inch worm, but all the red articles you read talked about small baits. And I was like, to heck with that. I ain't throwing everything that everybody else was throwing or what all the articles said. I'm not throwing a creature bait. I got down and dug out a 10-inch Berkeley power worm. And I'm telling you, about my first cast, I got bit. And I was like, there's something to this. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I did. I'm a live and die frog person. I've got a frog sight on in my boat 365 days a year, and most of the time too. And I'll always throw it at some point. And I literally force-fed those fish all during practice trying to get bit on a frog. And I think I had one blow up on it. But
really?
But like I said, I'm a diehard frog person, and it was on the deck of the boat both mornings. Well, the first day I was boat 6, and where I started, which I thought was my best stretch, me and my partner didn't get a bite. And I kind of attributed it to all the boat waves, because 90% of the field was running that direction. And so me being boat 6, I had, 15 boats come by with boat wakes, and the place was really, really narrow. So I said, well, that affected it, and then I just kept fishing. I actually didn't have a fish the first day until like 10:30. And my co-angler, Diana Eaglehawk, had 2. which I tell her all the time. I said, she scares me because she's like the worm guru. She scares me. Not the worm, but anyway.
She is good.
She is good, but she's a great partner. I mean, I love fishing with Diana. She's a great partner. So like I say, I didn't have a fish until 10:30, and I'd run, I don't know how many spots, and I was just like, man. And I said, well, I kind of calmed down. I said, well, the fish I caught on this one particular stretch, and I'd already fished it once that day and had not gotten bit. I said, when I was getting the bites was late in the day. And I pulled up there about, I don't know, 1:30-ish and caught 4 fish just like that. So, you know, you can't get out there and get discouraged, and that's easier said than done. But, I mean, you know, at 10:30, 11 o'clock, I only had 2 fish in the boat. Up until 1 o'clock, I had 2 fish in the boat. And Diana was already culling. I could have easily spun out. You know, but you got to keep your head in it. That's what I tell my kids all the time on the team. I said, you got to keep your head in it.
Right.
You are your biggest enemy. You can beat yourself so quick. And I just believed what I was doing, and I you know, just kept doing it. Like I said, I pulled up and caught 4 fish, and it worked out. Then the second day, I actually I started on the same bank, although I did not get a bite there the first morning. I started on the same bank. I made 1 cast with a worm, and I was looking at this Zazina or whatever this crap is. And I was like, and I told Diana, I said, they just got to bite a frog. That's all there is to it. I've had 1 bite on it all week. I picked it up and landed in a little pocket, and my biggest fish of the morning hit it. And then, man, within 30 minutes, I had a limit and was culling. So, you know, sometimes I can't really explain that. It's just a gut. It's an instinct. I don't know what it is. You know, I hadn't been bitten 4 days on a frog, and I picked up a frog and caught a limit, you know, and I looked across there, and a section I hadn't even fished. I was like, you know, I bet I can catch one over there. I pulled over there and caught a fish. And then I had one specific, just one dock that in practice I saw a brim bed behind. And I heard a bass bust under that dock. And I thought to myself, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to go try it. So I run all the way back up towards takeoff to this one dock. I ease over behind it, skip that frog under there, and my second biggest fish ate it. I mean, sometimes it's the decision making. That particular time, the decision making just happened to work. All I can say is I had the good Lord on my side, because sometimes things like that, I mean, I saw that fish bust 3 or 4 days prior to. And to go back with just one specific fish in mind to catch it was quite incredible.
I wasn't there this time. And so when I saw you and Linda Gessner both way up there, I'm like, oh man, they're killing them on frogs down there. You know, like that was just my natural instinct. So I'm shocked that it was just that period of time that you caught them on that.
For newcomers or whatever, I have to say, don't get stuck on any one thing or what somebody tells you or what you read. Because I left Georgia with flipping stuff and frogs tied on. Because that was how it was supposed to set up.
Mm-hmm. From billion-dollar ad budgets and arena naming rights to tens of thousands of retail locations, big wireless providers spend big to appear like they're your only option. How do they afford it all? That big bill you get at the end of every month. Mint Mobile had a different idea. Instead of brick and mortar overhead, Mint Mobile is online only. What does that mean for you? A whole lot of savings, because wireless plans from Mint Mobile start at just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You'll save enough that you can get a brand new rod and reel for the upcoming season. For anyone who just hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can even keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. By going online only and eliminating traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
And for me, it didn't. And I had to be willing to change at some point during practice to try to make something work. Because obviously, I mean, there was a lot of fish caught on frogs. I understand that, but it for whatever reason, it wasn't working for me to begin with. So, you got to be willing to change and just not get stuck in one particular deal.
Do you, in your experience, because I did fish the frog quite a bit in the morning, but I found that they were just kind of coming up and a lot of times just kind of bumping it. They weren't really like eating it. Is that the same kind of experience you had?
Yeah, I had quite a few doing that. I did switch from a popping frog to a regular spro frog, something that was a little bit more quieter, and I could move it just a little bit gentler. I don't know what
more gently.
Whatever. English obviously wasn't my deal. And just kind of, I could keep it kind of in one spot, like that first fish. It was just a little pocket in that sawgrass type stuff, and I was able to just kind of work it right there in one spot, move it in one spot without moving it, if that makes any sense. Because I could not get bit on the popping frog at all, and and quite possibly that was because it was so calm. I mean, it was just, it was brutally calm for most of the tournament, and a lot of times they just want something quieter. Because that was the same thing with the worm. I hate to fish slow. I'd rather be beat than fish slow, and it was so dreadfully slow. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I mean, when you hit that grass, you just kind of had to, about like the frog, just kind of sit there and move it without moving it. So
you are more of a power fisherman then, for the most part.
Oh yeah, okay. I grew up on Lake Seminole, which is basically a swamp. We joke around. We don't have but 8 foot of line on our rods because that's all we need to flip and 50-pound braid. So
really?
I've got 2 spinning rods that just ride in the bottom of my rod box.
That's kind of how I am. It's on the boat because it just makes me feel better just to say that I have it. But wow, okay. So because I didn't know, I've never actually fished with you, so I had no idea on what side of the spectrum that you fish. So that's interesting. So I would have put you somewhere in the middle if I had to guess. And I think it's because you're so versatile. Like you're so consistent.
Well, that's what I was fixing to say. I try to be very versatile. At any point in time, if you'll look on the deck of my boat, with the exception of the Cane River, there may be 10 or more rod and reels laying on the deck of the boat that's got, I don't know how many different things on it. So if I just get a hankering, I can reach down and pick it up, because you never know when that gut feeling is going to pay out. Right. I fished a tournament one time and I had, Lord, I don't even know. I had so many rods on the deck you couldn't walk. But I was fishing with one all day, and my co-angler finally said, "Why have you got all these rods up here and you only fishing with one?"
Right.
Because if I get the notion it's laying right there, I don't have to go digging for it. But, I try to be versatile. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't like to throw a spinning rod. That's not my favorite. Case in point, last year on Hartwell, the fish were supposed to be in cane piles on drop shots and light line, all that. And I tried, and I just couldn't. That just wasn't my deal. And the last day of practice, I threw that crap down. I picked up a frog and said, "I'm going to find me some fish." And I got out of that 50 foot of water with that angel hair. went in 2 feet of water with 50-pound braid and caught the fish and actually won that tournament. So, sometimes you can't be scared to step outside the box. In other words, because I way stepped out of the box there.
Did you say more than likely, like, fish your strengths?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to do that to a point, because number one, you can't fish another person's game, period. I mean, I could tell you all day long to get on this lake and throw this bait on this type of cover, and if it's not something you're comfortable with, I guarantee you won't. You might catch one or two, but you're not going to get it. Right. Whereas if you picked up what you're comfortable with and went to an area that you're comfortable with, you could probably make it happen. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
I mean, there's been more than one occasion when I've told my co-angler, I said, look, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. And they're like, what? Because, I mean, every time I pick up something different, they'd change. I'm like, pick something and stick with it.
Yeah.
Pick something you like. I don't care if it's a pink worm with purple polka dots. If that's your favorite and you've got confidence in it, pick that up and throw it. Quit trying to throw a crankbait or when you can't throw it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
That's kind of similar to some advice I got recently from a guide actually out here on my lake, where he said, if somebody's telling you, it's buzzbait, but you're not good at throwing a buzzbait, pick something kind of similar that you are good at, like say a whopper plopper that kind of does the same type of thing. I think that's really good advice. That's
right. Yep. Yeah, I learned a long time ago, you can't play another person's game. And that's why, I'll gather as much information as I can in all avenues, but I'm not going to have somebody tell me, go to this waypoint, and this waypoint, and throw this. I don't even want to hear that. Tell me the pattern, what's going on, and let me go from there. Because, just like with the drop shot and the cane piles, that I lost more drop shot stuff than the law ought to allow. I had to win that tournament to replace all their drop shot weights.
I remember that. That was some clear water.
Yep.
Out there at Hartwell.
So maybe having too much information can kind of be a detriment in a way if you focus your head on that, and that kind of prevents you from thinking outside the box probably too.
Exactly. I've seen it happen too often. Yeah. And I want to give a quick shout out to Pam Ridgel, because she is an awesome angler. And if I had to be tied with anybody going into the last tournament, it wasn't her.
I can't imagine why.
And then knowing that whichever one of us finished in front of the other was going to win Angler of the Year, and then to come in after the first day and she's leading, and I think I was in fourth. But that just, I'm a big one that if you fuel my fire, I mean, and I took off the second morning mad. I was mad because those fish didn't bite. I was mad because it wasn't working. And I went out that second morning with a purpose and a drive like no other. I mean, I don't know. I can't explain it. I just kind of got in that zone. It don't happen very often, but
I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, you and I kind of mentioned it in my write-up that you've just got that competitive edge and that drive and that passion that you were like, oh, well, it's really on the line now. Like, this is the last tournament. After today, there is no tomorrow for Angler of the Year. And you probably were just like, like it was like that was it. And I mean, so that frame of mind, I think, makes perfect sense. And I think that all of us at given times are exactly like that. So I can imagine that's probably why you stayed so focused and ultimately did your Pam thing.
I've been doing this a really long time, and I mean, it's I don't know any other way to fish. I I mean, my husband tells me all the time that we don't even go fun fishing because I can't relax. If I'm bass fishing, I'm like this. You know what I'm saying? And so that just comes from, I think, from the years of being on the water and the years of competing and the years of knowing that you've only got a limited amount of time to put all this together. And it doesn't always work, but you've got to, I tell my kids, you give me 110%, I will be as proud of you if you win as if you come in last, as long as you give me 110%. Because I promise you won't win giving it 80%.
Bass fishing is not easy. You make it look easy. Yes, you do. You make it look easy, but it is not easy.
It's not.
I mean, I've heard for so long, and I've seen it in articles where bass are the most predictable fish on the planet. That's crap.
I've always said if the bass's brain got as big as ours, they'd be running the country.
I mean,
smart us a lot.
Right. I mean, they have these solar charts and these, they should be doing this at this time and this and this and this and that. And it's crap because and I guess that's just Mother Nature protecting her own, because if it was that simple, we wouldn't have any bass left. I mean, I guess in the end, that's what it is. But people like my friends who in my area that I've grown up with, I guess that they think that I'm like sitting out in the middle of the boat with a beer and a bobber and just yanking them in the boat all the time, and that it's like that. But they really, a lot of people don't understand the work and everything that goes into it.
I've had people many, many times say, "What do you do to get a job like that?" And I'm just like, "Careful what you ask for."
Right.
I fished in the heat last week was bad, but I fished another tournament in Louisiana where the actual heat was 110 and the heat index was over 125. I mean, it was all. But there on the other end of the stick at the Bassmaster Classic, I practiced in sleet and snow, and when I come in that day, you couldn't even see the rod and reels on my deck. They were completely snowed over. I mean, so, like you say, most people think we got a sandwich and just get out there and have us a good old boy time. And but it's not like that. It's from daylight to dark, from can to can't.
Well, and I will say this about you, because, and this goes with your consistency. It doesn't matter what time you get to the ramp on practice day. You've already launched. And it doesn't matter what time you come in, you are still out there. You are the first one there and the last one to leave. And I think that does go a lot to your consistency and the amount of work that you put in. But
I just feel like I'm not doing my job, Sometimes I feel guilty if I were to come off the water early, because I feel like I came off the water 2 hours early. What did I miss?
It's funny you say that, Barbara, because my very first LBAA tournament as a boater, we were staying at the same hotel and had our boats parked next to each other. And I'd get up and I'd be like, "She's already gone?" and then we'd come in at the end of the day and like, "She's still out there?" It's like, okay, we got to step it up a little bit, but it's pretty impressive.
And it does go to show the amount of work that it takes. I mean, for the newcomers, coming up, that is a very good thing to follow suit on. It's a very hard thing to follow suit on. And for someone like me, that's an intimidating thing to follow suit on. I don't have that amount of stamina to give to do that. And
it is a lot of hard work. I mean, battling the elements. And there was a point in time when I first started fishing in my career that after every tournament, I got sick, because I put so much into it physically, mentally, everything during the week that I was fishing, that when it was over, I was done. and I literally got sick. So I kind of had to learn to manage that as well. I mean, you can put too much into it.
And sometimes you do have to kind of weigh that against your overall health, because it can be a detriment. So it's like,
right.
And most of us will say, well, by God, yes, it is worth it. Like, this is what I love to do. Yes, it's worth it. Why are you even asking me that? And like, you just have this crazy, insane work ethic, which is extremely respectable. I was reading different articles and stuff on you, which it was just amazing to read about you talking about your early days, and like you were going from motocross, I think it was, and you had and then you had the energy, or the injury. If you had to pick, do you wish you would have been able to stay in that, or are you glad that transitioned into fishing?
Well, I'm glad it kind of transitioned into fishing, but to be honest, and you're right, I did quit motocross because I injured my elbow, but fishing ain't no rodeo.
Right.
I mean, it's rough, I've got GoPro footage where I had a camera behind me and my partner, and I mean, it literally looked like we were riding a bull. I mean, people don't realize, and I had a reporter one time, they didn't literally count every cast, but they counted every cast within a minute for so often all throughout the day. And it averaged up, I made well over 10,000 casts that day. That's a lot. That's a lot of repetition. I don't care what you're doing. I mean, if you ain't doing nothing but drawing circles with your finger, that's a lot of repetition.
That's true.
And then you got, the weather. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of things with the weather that affect us, and unfortunately we can't control. Mm-hmm. People think, well, it's raining out, y'all just gonna hang out in a motel. Not,
right.
or it's snowing or whatever. But we got to get out there and go. And
we have to go on good and bad.
You'd also have to have met my parents or met my dad. When you talk about my work ethics, I mean, he's 84 years old, and I can't, since I've been here, I can't get him to come in the house. He's outside constantly doing something, mowing, weed eating, something. I'm like, you got to stop. No. So, I mean, that's kind of in me. And I come up from a very competitive background. My dad raced cars, go-karts. My granddad raced drag cars, just, everything. So being competitive is just, it's in me.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got a lot of people watching, a lot of comments coming in, a couple questions that I want to try to squeeze in from people that are watching right now. One that ties into what we're talking about. Bass Fisher 3K asks, how do you keep from fishing from, well, actually it says finding too much. I think maybe that meant to be fishing too much. Do you stop sometimes just to keep from confusing yourself with options?
No, and sometimes I should. You can stumble upon a different pattern or a totally different end of the lake, and then I'm sitting there in the motel room the night before the tournament going, am I going here? Am I going there? So, I mean, you can actually, I guess, do too much. But if I got a pattern that's working, I'll try to stick with that pattern. But just, every now and then you want something to fall back on. Mm-hmm. So you kind of got to try to find something else just in case. Because, I mean, you never know. I mean, they bite one day and one day they don't. So, you kind of need a backup plan. And that's what I try to do.
And then,
Pam, I think that you actually know who that is. That is Tim Drazel from Lakeside Lane.
Oh yeah, that's our neighbor. That was our neighbor. Yeah, Tim Drazel. Yep.
Yeah,
that's
him
him
a lot.
We're hoping to get his son up at Emmanuel here pretty soon.
Nice.
And then Barbara, I got a question that just got texted into me from Lori from Two Chicks in a Boat. And it's kind of off topic, so I don't know if you want to, I mean, a little bit different than what we're talking about right now, but it's about sponsorships. I don't know if you got any other questions about that coming in, but Lori said, Pam has been doing this for a long, long time. What have been the obstacles she's had to overcome to secure sponsorships? Pro staff is one thing. I'll promote your products that I purchase with a 25% discount or whatever versus someone paying your fees, etc.
You know, that's really a hard question because I have been after this a long, long time. It's really about building relationships. And what you can do for your sponsor. A lot of times it's not so much that you can win every tournament or Angler of the Year every other year or whatever. It's how you promote yourself and their product. It's basically like any other job. I mean, your employer wants to know what you can do for them. And I'm not going to lie, it's a tough industry to get in. It really is. And unfortunately, it's been extra hard for the female side, which I've never quite understood because we bring a whole different, we can bring a whole different market into this. But like I say, it's about. Most all of my sponsors, I have a really good relationship. It's not, it's more like a friend relationship. Maybe it didn't start out that way, but it's about building relationships for the most part. Mm-hmm. For me, somebody out there may be going, that's not right.
I mean, that's
I think everybody would agree. Well, any of us that are actually in the industry, people that are on the outside looking in might be like, whatever. But I think any of us that are actually in the industry are like, word. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's true.
It's like I try to tell my kids when they go to a tournament, it's a lot about appearance and personality. No, I'm not a Gerald Swindler. But if I come in and didn't catch any fish, I'm not going to come in and kick a trash can and walk around with my lips poked out. I'm going to walk around with my head held high, smile, speak to everybody. Now, when I get to the motel room and I'm by myself, I may kick a trash can.
But a little one.
Yeah, you can't show that in the public.
Right.
When you're in the public's eye, you've got to control those emotions.
And I think that also Angie and I have talked about this, and I don't know how many times, but women over the past, well, it was last year, it was 3, so now it's 4. Women are the fastest and biggest growing demographic in fishing. And yet we represent such a teeny tiny portion of these companies. And like a lot of them might not know it yet, but they are missing out on a huge opportunity that these smaller companies are just swooping up and grabbing us. And like for myself, I'm a very loyal person. So the smaller companies that I represent, I'm not going anywhere from them because, because it is about relationships for me.
Right. And I got a quick story. First, Women's Bassmaster Classic was on Lake Mitchell. I actually won that event. And at the time I was sponsored by Wave Worms, which made all kinds of different plastics. Okay. But for whatever reason, I could not get bit on anything but a baby brush hog.
Uh-oh.
And I was sitting in the parking lot prior to them driving us into the weigh-in, and I was in turmoil. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I picked up the phone and I called the president of the company. I said, look, I got a problem. I said, y'all have been very good to me. I said, but I just won this tournament on a Zoom baby brush hog. I said, I tried, and that's what they would buy. And she was like, by all means, I expect you to get up there and tell the truth.
Good
And
for
that was
her.
like a weight lifted off my shoulder because I knew I could not get on that stage and say I caught them on a wave worm. And I had 3 press people in my boat all 3 days. I knew what I was throwing.
Right.
I would really look like a, you know, I mean,
Sure.
so, I knew what I was going to say before I went on stage. I guess I was kind of preparing her to fire me. I was letting her know in advance. So it was like a real to know that there are people out there that sometimes we can't. Sometimes the fish they want something else.
And I would hope that 99% of companies would know that. You know, that would be horrible. That would be a horrible fishing company if they penalized somebody for something like that. I would just be like, really? That would be awful.
But kudos to you for thinking about and calling them and reaching out before,
yes,
saying anything. So,
and for not lying, because I mean, seriously, because a lot of people probably would just feeling like in that position, and so I respect telling the truth because I would have told the truth and taken whatever consequences, Baby brush hog. No.
And I've probably brought up a lot about it, but I see you got Bainbridge up there, my hometown, supportive. So any chance I get, I try to promote Bainbridge and Lake Seminole area. I mean, Lake Seminole was, I tell people all the time, to me, it was the ultimate lake to grow up on, to learn to fish on, because it has so much here. Diverse fishery. If you want to fish rivers, you can go up the rivers. If you want shoal, go way up the rivers. If you want to fish wood, we got grass, rocks. I mean, it was just a perfect place. And, I can't thank the city of Bainbridge enough for their continued support of me throughout the years. There's nothing like, of all the companies in the industry, there's nothing like having your hometown behind you. I mean, that goes a long way. So, a special shout out to the city of Bainbridge for that.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
That is really cool that they take care of you and that they promote you and you promote them. That's pretty neat. The truck that you had that was wrapped, it was gorgeous.
Thank you.
Absolutely gorgeous.
It's been over 300,000 miles around this country with that wrap on it. So
that's a lot of advertising for sure.
Yeah. I've literally been going down the interstate. This is no joke. And had somebody pull up and go, and you roll down the window, you from Bainbridge? And I'm like, yeah. And they go, well, we're from Cairo, which is just 20 miles from here, or our family's from Cairo. You never know. I mean, and for potential sponsors out there, that's proof positive. You never know how your product is going to reach somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a lake or a weigh-in stage. It may be at a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
The power of a wrapped vehicle and a wrapped boat
versus the cost to do the wrap, it's ridiculous.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm actually talking to a company about that right now because, I mean, the amount of traveling, especially that you guys do versus me, I mean, it has to be. I mean, you said that your truck did 300,000 miles.
Yeah.
Now, how many eyeballs is that?
I mean,
and especially even for, smaller companies or something like that. I mean, ones that aren't heard of. I mean, it really is. Once it's paid for, it's,
I mean,
unlimited.
We have people strike up conversations with us, like I say, at gas stations, whatever. I mean, that don't even fish. They're like, hey, what's that? And they just, so you never know. I mean, So
Right.
you potential sponsors out there,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people on this trip to Cane River with the full rig going down the road, how many were like, hey, truck drivers. And I had a lot of new people look up the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast and like the page. And, I'm sure Freedom Boat Club as well with the boat. So yeah, that's a great way to get a lot of eyeballs on your brand for sure.
It really is.
Pam, you should have been like, Bainbridge, nope.
Never heard of it.
Never been there. I'll check it out.
My truck.
Oh, that would be so funny. The one other thing I have two other things, but one's really quick. Do you believe in windows being super important or not very important?
As
Like,
far as bass feeding windows.
Yeah, bass feed.
Yes, definitely. For example, I mean, the one bank that I fished the first day, we fished down it and fished very thoroughly down it and didn't get a bite. Went on and came back 2 hours later and we're just catching them like that. So,
Would you sit on a spot?
pardon me?
Would you sit on a spot for a couple of hours waiting for a window?
Probably.
You're like, no, I power fish. You're like,
that would be really hard. Some of the deeper places I have sat there, but then again, I have sat there too long,
yeah.
and then probably left and missed that window.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, you brought up earlier the moon phase and all that. All that really has a lot to do with what we do. I mean, if you'll notice, if you're fishing and no birds are chirping, no squirrels are moving or nothing like that, and then all of a sudden the birds start chirping, the squirrels start hopping, and all of a sudden you get bit. I mean, there is a rhyme and reason to it. Do I sit down and plan out my day according to a moon phase? No. That's I got way more to think about than keeping all that in order. But
so you won't make sure that you're sitting on your best spot at a certain time or anything like that?
Sometimes I will, and I'm not saying all the time I won't. But I don't particularly plan my day around that per se. It's always in the back of my mind, but
Okay.
It depends on how the fishing has gone that past week. I mean, just because they're not biting here doesn't mean they're not biting over here. So, I don't want to sit in one place and miss this. So It's kind of a lot of moving around. I guess.
An interesting thing on Cane River that I read, because I'm friends with Stephanie Hemphill Pellerin on Facebook, who won the Rookie of the Year for the LBAA. And day two, she had found a spot that had some water coming in, so cooler water there, about 5 degrees cooler than the rest of the river, and she sat on that spot all day long. So that's really interesting, because fish were coming in. She figured fish would be moving in all day long, and she caught her limit. So
certain scenarios like that, yeah. I mean, especially when. Like we had it jumped from being 80 something in the mornings to 93, 94 in the afternoons. So yeah, something like that would obviously be, a bass magnet.
Right. That's something super special on a place like Cane.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, it depends on. It has a lot more factors than just saying, okay, I'm going to be here at a certain time because it's the right moon phase. So there's a lot of other factors to weigh in.
Right.
For me, anyway.
There's always a way too much for me. So it doesn't matter.
So Barbara, we've got a few minutes here left. I think you said you had another thing you wanted to to squeeze in. I mean, we could have Pam on all night long if she had, the time to do it. But
right. Are you booked for July? No. Okay. For this question, it was actually they wanted a whole thing on baits. So we'll just say, we know that your favorite topwater is a frog. So what's your other 2 favorite baits?
The next would probably be a jig, just because of its versatility. You can swim it, fish it on the bottom. You can just do so much with a jig. It's probably the second bait that's always tied on any point in time in my boat. And then, the next one that's always tied on, I've never really thought about it this way, that those would be my favorites, but would be a square bill crankbait. Mm-hmm. Because it too is so versatile and you can cover so much water so fast with it. A lot of times in practice, we don't have time. And that's my downfall. I say we don't have time. I don't take the time to sit somewhere and dead stick something. I'm going to power fish down a bank. And if I get a bite, then I might circle back and try to break that area down like I did with the eelgrass. But
gotcha.
So that would probably be, if I had to pick three baits to go fish a tournament, and that was the only 3, a worm would be a toss up in there somewhere, but it would be probably those 3.
So with jigs, do you customize your jigs at all?
It depends. It depends on the fishery. A lot of times with my swimming jig, I'll thin the skirt just so it flows a lot more. I'll trim them, make them shorter. If I want it to fall slower, I'll leave the skirt really full. There's just a wide variety of things you can do with a jig. Different trailers. You can put chunks on it. You can put speed crawls on it. You can put a swim bait on it. You can pretty much make a jig do anything you want it to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite trailer that you like to use? Man, I know it depends on what you're trying to do, but
I guess probably more often than not, it would be a Zoom speed crawl. Mm-hmm. Is probably the what would be on there the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hate a jig. I wonder how many times I'm going to take a beating on a jig before I just go out and just buy me a truckload. So, Dad, if you're watching this, I blame you because I don't even remember why I hate them.
Well, they can be kind of intimidating to master, but I mean,
our predominant thing around here is a lot of wood. We could lose so many so quick. It just gets annoying when you can Texas rig and the fish be like, okay, that's supposed to be a crawfish too. That's what I think. I just don't think they should be that picky. Watermelon, green pumpkin, doesn't matter. Yeah, it matters, but it shouldn't.
I agree with you.
I'm a co.
I agree with you, but and this is off base too, but fish are creatures of habit, and they do learn. I mean, I don't know, they're smart. I had a 180-gallon aquarium, and I had 2 bass in it that weighed about 1.5 pounds apiece. I started out with 3, but 2 of them wouldn't let one eat.
Well, that ain't right.
So we wound up with 2, and we'd go get minnows to feed them and come in. And because they were such little pigs, I'd take some minnows to one end of the aquarium, which was 6 feet long. My husband would get on the other end of the aquarium with minnows. And so we would coax the, fish to our opposite end so we could feed them hopefully equal amounts. It didn't take too many times. And you could come in and out of that house 1,000 times and those fish never move. But you walk in that door with that bucket and y'all going to think I'm lying. Those fish would go to their corner.
Mm.
It was never this guy went to this corner and this guy went to this one, and next time it was never that way. They went to their corner.
Wow.
Every single time.
Wow.
That right there taught me that it don't take fish long to learn. So yeah,
Right.
when everybody was running down the bank flipping a creature hog in that zazina, I was like, I'm gonna throw something else.
See, and that's kind of what I think. Like, if you throw something that they're, like you'll buy something and you'll be like, this is the goofiest thing I have ever seen in my life. And the craziest thing I had ever seen was Robbie Hartline throwing, it was a mutant. It looked like a miniature human. I mean, I'm like, it looked like a miniature human. I just laughed my butt off. And during that tournament, she caught one that was almost 8 pounds. It was during practice, but it was huge. And I'm like, well, maybe there's something to be said about that. Just something they're not used to seeing. And,
Right.
It didn't take me long before I had me some mutants, coming from Tackle Warehouse, but sometimes that very well could be, could mean something.
Exactly.
They're like, there's a frog, there's a strike king spinnerbait, there's a Cinco.
Yeah.
So even if
Senko did not work for me on Cane River, that's for sure.
Yeah. So if you don't change baits, if you just try to change up the presentation, the retrieve something, make it a little different. I don't know.
Wow.
Or maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong at all. At all. Did you have anything else that anybody had put through, Angie?
Just a bunch of comments about loving jigs and saying hi. And Stephen Pellerin said, "Great job, ladies! Congratulations, Pam, on Angler of the Year."
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Tim's telling me, throw the jig. Of course. I will, before the summer is up, I will get me some jigs and toss them around in open water. I will do it. I will definitely do it.
All right.
Pam, I just, congratulations, first of all. But I just don't even know what to say about how you've done this year and every year in the past. I had, in the write-up, everybody, you can look at Pam's stats prior to the LBAA starting, which the very last thing is your finish from the Bassmaster Classic of 2010, where she did place in 22nd overall. That is indisputable. Don't want to hear it. It is on record at bassmaster.com. So you can check that out. And then since the LBAA started, I have that link up too, where you can go and see how she's done since the LBAA started. Pam, every angler, when they get on the water, they know they've got you to contend with every tournament. So
I don't know about that. I just love fishing.
I know you do.
That's what it's all about.
It is. And you get focused and you get your competitive edge and everything, but it is because you love the sport. And that's what we all do. You just are really, really phenomenal at it, where, the rest of us are just trying to get there. Well, I am anyway.
Me too.
Right.
I can't deny that I've been very blessed throughout my career, but you'll never hear me brag on me. But I have been very blessed, and that's part of the reason why I have started coaching. Is it's at this point in my career, it's a way to give back. It's a way to give back to a sport that's been so good to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can change one kid's mind or help this sport grow in any way, that's, to me right now, that's what it's all about. And watching those kids, and I call them kids, and most of them are 1.5 feet taller than I am.
Right.
But to watch them come off the stage with a smile on their face or whatever, that's what it's all about.
And, some kids are going to college because they get to fish in college. And,
that's right.
And I didn't, when I was going to college, they didn't have fishing teams. They didn't have fishing teams in high school, and it would have completely rerouted where I went to college. It could have rerouted my entire life, thus far. And so I love how they're changing it for kids, because there are a lot of them that are just like, oh, well, I guess I'll get an education because I can fish, and they'll send me to tournaments and stuff. And so, however you get them there, that's fine. But
right.
if you are young and you are watching this, you can go to this website and apply to go to college, and you will have this woman as your coach, and you will leave with a college degree, and you will know how to fish.
Emmanuel's one of the limited few around the country that actually give fishing scholarships. So we actually give scholarships for fishing.
Nice.
So,
nice. Is there an age limit?
No, as long as you're a full-time student.
Really? There's no disqualifying.
I've had several people tell me, say, I'm going to go back to school. I said, just the requirement. The only NCAA requirement is that you are a full-time student, 12 hours per semester.
Oh man! Do you have to keep a certain GPA?
You got to maintain a certain GPA. So,
what if you already have a master's degree? They won't take
trouble maintaining then. But they can go to that website or email me at pam.wells@ec.edu.
Okay, you guys hear it. I'm telling you, check it out. It is never a bad idea to get an education, especially if you have a scholarship involved and you get to fish. You cannot lose on that deal. And Pam, I actually had another question come through, and I've got to give it to you because this lady has been following me for several months on social media, brand new in fishing, and she has been killing it. And I think I say her name every week, Fancy Pants Fishing. And she wants to know if you would help to coach an amateur angler in Alabama that graduated college almost 20 years ago. So if she just messaged you a couple of times, would you give her some pointers? Because she watches us. She watches every week, and I'll tell you, she, in just a couple of months, this woman has got what it takes, and she will be at Logan Martin to watch the weigh-in.
Nice.
But yeah, absolutely. I'm all about sharing the passion for this sport.
Good.
Somebody shared it with me. My parents and grandparents started me, shared this passion, and if I can share it with whomever, I'd be more than happy to.
She's one of the good ones. She's got what it takes, and I told her that from day one, and she's going to go to Logan Martin to watch the weigh-in and see you girls. And
awesome.
So there you go, Fancy Pants. She says, yay.
Come up and introduce yourself.
There you go. Awesome. You get to go meet the woman. The Pam Martin Wells, Fancy Pants, and you can send her a message if you have any questions or anything.
She's excited.
She's very excited. She's gonna fish next year.
Awesome.
She's gonna fish the LBAA next year. I just have a feeling.
Good deal.
But you know what, Pam? Seriously, thank you so much for taking out the time to do this with everything you've got going on, and thank you just for everything that you're giving back to the sport, and congratulations on a stellar year.
For sure.
Thank y'all. Anytime, feel free to contact me.
Okay, 2022. Angie's coming for you. She's coming for you hard.
Hey, it's a tough field out there, you know.
It is.
I said that about Pam, but it's not just Pam, but you know,
there's a lot of really good. Yeah, there's a lot of really talented anglers out there. I find myself this year kind of wishing I would have spent more time in the back of the boat before moving to boater, but I mean, sometimes I just learn the best just jumping in with both feet. So
there's nothing wrong with that. I fished my first Bass and Gal tournament as a non-boater. The next tournament I went as a boater.
That's me. So maybe in 20, 30 years, maybe I'll be somewhere halfway close to where you're at.
Pam says, nope, not again. That's great.
That was kind of my experience too.
One of these days. I'm thinking about it.
There you go.
All right, ladies. Well, you guys have a good night. And anybody else, if you want to put any questions down that we can answer, email the show. You guys know how to do it. Everybody have a great week. And we will be back next week to continue the regular questions we had started 2 weeks ago. So everybody have a great week, and we will see you guys next week. Right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you did take some good notes, and I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Pam Martin Wells. One thing I didn't mention in the beginning is I got a really cool note from Pam after the show that her husband, Steven, watched it and said that in all her years of interviews, Major League Fishing, all these different platforms, that he hadn't heard as good of an interview. So that was really special for him to say that and for Pam to share that with us. So really cool stuff. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the podcast. Look forward to bringing you another guest to feature next week, and we'll see you then.